Hello folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at the small hydraulic press that I got for my garage. It's just a small, they call it a benchtop press, 10 ton, should be plenty for whatever I need in my garage here. It is a Dake press. They're a US company, they still make a lot of their presses in the United States, but this is actually their value press and it is made in China. Now I would have liked to have had one of their higher end US made presses, but for my use, I really couldn't justify the cost. This is made in China, but it's also vastly less expensive than their other presses, and it's still backed by Dake, U.S. company, so it should be fine for my needs. A lot of people end up just buying the Harbor Freight, either 12 or 20 ton press for their garages. For people that are just looking for just a cheap press to get the job done in their garage. But I wanted to try something a little different, so I picked this up. And today I'm going to be opening it up, putting it together, and taking a look, see what I think of it. All right, so I got everything out of the box. First impressions, overall everything's pretty good. It was packaged pretty well. There was bubble wrap around all the individual pieces to keep things from getting too beat up in shipping. There was also some wood blocks in a few key spots to keep things from getting jostled around too much, because a lot of this stuff does have some good amount of weight to it. Overall, again, just based on first impressions, quality does seem pretty decent. The finish is plenty good for a shop tool. Fit and finish and component quality seems pretty good. Now there's a few things I kind of prefer about this design versus the Harbor Freight press. But one of the nice touches that this press has is the actual arbor plates that it comes with. They're actually like a torch cut piece of plate steel instead of the cast pieces that come with the Harbor Freight one. So they're going to be a lot less likely to break or shatter in use. So that I feel a lot more comfortable using these than the ones with the Harbor Freight. They're not the thickest ones I've ever seen, but for a 10-ton press, they should be plenty. Overall, though, first impressions, I'm pretty pleased with it. The attachments that come for the end of the ram, they're threaded, so they can thread onto the ram for installation, but also that's nice because it gives you just a little bit of fine adjustment to get stuff, seated right. The gauge just kind of comes in a kind of a generic little package, but it is an oil-filled gauge. It does seem like it's, again, it's just the overall first impressions are that it seems pretty decent. We'll see how it actually works in use, but nothing jumps out at me as being low quality or chintzy, and it definitely does seem like a step above the Harbor Freight press, which is good because it does cost a bit more than the Harbor Freight press. It also comes with a package with all of the seals and parts you would need to rebuild the pump and the cylinder, so kind of a nice touch, just so that down the road, if something does get messed up and starts leaking, you at least have the parts to try and fix it yourself without having to order anything. And just a little thing, but even the seal for the ram does seem like the extra stiff kind of type of seal that the high pressure cylinders should technically have for a 10,000 psi cylinder versus just kind of the standard rubber lip seal that some of the cheaper cylinders have. So that's kind of nice too. I'll tell you another sign that this is definitely the press for me. The company logo emblem here has a little piece of plastic to peel. And I like that. All right, so I'm going to clear off the bench and start getting it put together. So there it is, assembled and ready to go. The assembly was pretty easy and pretty fast. No issues there. You can see the gauge on top of the cylinder. And it actually uses quick connect fittings with a hose that goes down to the pump. And those are the same fitting that a lot of the Porta Power rams and Porta Power kits use. So technically you could get one of those ram sets from Harbor Freight or any of the places online and actually use the pump that comes with this press for some of those little portable rams. I have the gauge kind of pointing off to the side a little bit because the pump just actually lifts right off of its little hanger there, and you can use it on the end of its hose kind of standing off to the side of the press so you don't get hit with anything that might come loose or anything like that. Again, assembly was very easy, no issues. Fit and finish is decent, no real major issues. The only thing I did note that is a little bit of a bummer, and I may just end up shimming it or something like that, but you can see that actually teeters on there a little bit. So I may shim the one corner to eliminate that, but otherwise everything's pretty square, everything works really good. And you can see the overall design of the press, very simple. It's very compact. There's only a few welds on the press, and honestly they're not the best looking welds I've ever seen. But because of the design of the press, all of the stress is on the bolted joints at the top and then the materials themselves. So the design puts all the stress at the strongest points. The welds aren't really stressed or anything. So not a big deal, not like some of the other presses where all the welds are pretty critical because they're what's holding all of the force. With the design of this press, that's not the case. The welds aren't really holding the force, and they're not terrible. They're just, as with a lot of, cheaper Chinese equipment, the welds aren't the best ever. But that's pretty much it. It works really well, not a whole lot to talk about. And last but not least, as everybody knows, the best way to christen a new press is to smash something for no reason. All right, so we got this little DC hobby motor, and let's see if we can press that shaft out of the center of it. All right, so let's see how it goes. Oh yeah, no problem pushing that shaft right out of there. But you know what? I don't know, that shaft really needs to come all the way out, I think. All right, not even up to 2 tons of force yet. Oh, yeah, I think the back just came off the motor. Yep, looks good. We got that shaft all the way out of there, I think. Success. So there you have it, plenty good enough for that. Hopefully it'll be good enough for whatever projects I have in the future that require a press. So not a super in-depth review or anything, but a press is a pretty simple piece of equipment. I just wanted to show it a little bit so people could get an idea of what the alternatives are that are out there for a small shop press. And I think this little Dake B10 10-ton bench press is going to be perfect for me. So if you have any questions or anything, post them up down below. As always, thank you for watching. Take care.